It's Friday, July 23rd, 2021, and this is the Washington Times front page. Thanks for joining us. I'm George Gerbo. Los Angeles County and other coronavirus hotspots are reimposing mask mandates, but New York City, the epicenter of last year's nightmare, is a glaring exception as cases climb as a result of the fast-moving Delta strain. Tom Howe reports New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio is bucking calls to require face coverings again. He said that would penalize people who've been vaccinated and sow doubt in the minds who might come forward to get vaccinated. De Blasio's quandary reflects a national conversation. Berkeley, California joined Los Angeles County in reimposing mask mandates, and rules are also being discussed in Arkansas and Missouri, where cases are flaring. Federal officials do worry that mask mandates would undercut messaging on the power of vaccines. The Department of Justice has indicted 9 people, including Chinese nationals and an American private investigator, on charges they were part of a Chinese government covert operation that forcibly repatriated opponents of their regime. Bill Gertz reports the 9 were charged with acting as illegal agents of China, conspiracy, and illegal stalking of dissidents and regime critics between 2016 and 2019. DOJ prosecutors said the men were operating under the direction of China's communist government and spied on and harassed U.S. residents, pressuring them to return to China. According to the indictment, the operations have been underway since 2016 and targeted several people identified only anonymously as John Doe. One operation involved the use of psychological coercion of a New Jersey man by bringing his elderly father to the United States and threatening him in front of his son. The opening ceremonies ringing in the Tokyo Olympics on Friday will look familiar. But make no mistake, these pandemic-delayed games will be unlike any that have come before. From events staged in arenas emptied by COVID-19 concerns, to athletes using their global platform to broadcast social and political messages. Sports reporter Andy Koska reports the International Olympic Committee is adamant that holding the games in virus-stricken Tokyo can be done safely, but there have still been warnings from top Japanese officials that the entire 2-week-long event could still be canceled. There have been at least 67 positive cases among those involved with the Olympics, including athletes and officials. The games will bring almost 11,000 athletes to Japan, many of whom have ties to the D.C. region. In the pool, Bethesda's Katie Ledecky, along with Tori Husk, opened their Olympic slates this weekend. And Troy Isley, a boxer who graduated from Alexandria City High School, competes next week. A reminder that you can find all these stories at WashingtonTimes.com/front page. Don't have access to the Times yet? Visit WashingtonTimes.com/George and get 25% off your annual subscription. The Pentagon has invested 2 decades of time and untold manpower to train Afghan security forces. Yet the United States and Taliban now control about the same number of districts across Afghanistan, and the Taliban are poised to capture even more territory as the U.S. completes its military withdrawal. That troubling reality, Pentagon correspondent Ben Wolfgang reports, undergirds American efforts to train and equip foreign military forces around the world. Despite noble intentions, it's proved virtually impossible to transfer American warfighting skill to foreign troops, even with much of the same equipment, similar instruction, and nearly identical physical regimens. Beyond the questionable battlefield results in Afghanistan and Iraq, U.S. foreign military training occasionally rears its head elsewhere for the wrong reasons. At least 6 of the former Colombian soldiers involved in the assassination this month of Haitian President Jovenel Moïse reportedly received U.S. military training as part of American support for the Latin American war on drugs. On immigration, at least 270,000 migrants have sneaked into the United States and settled across the country so far this fiscal year, according to the latest Border Patrol data. Stephen Dinan reports the problem is most acute in Arizona, but Customs and Border Protection didn't explain why the 48th state is experiencing the worst of the crisis. In neighboring Texas, the Department of Public Safety recorded 21,904 migrants that got away from January 1st to April 7th, or nearly 230 a day. From April 8th to July 15th, it tallied 32,600, or more than 330 a day. For comparison, from April 8th to July 15th of last year, Texas spotted only about 50 migrants per day that got away. And finally, Texas House Democrats aren't the first caucus to leave their state during a state house session to prevent lawmakers from acting on certain bills. Valerie Richardson reports on the contrast between the Texas effort this year and past attempts by Oregon Republican legislators to deny a quorum in their state. Only 4 states require legislative chambers to have 2/3 of members present before conducting business. Oregon Republicans have used the provision at least 3 times in recent years to fight cap-and-trade carbon emissions legislation and an increase in school spending. Find all today's front page stories at WashingtonTimes.com/front page or on the Washington Times app, and subscribe for free to the front page. Just search Washington Times on your favorite podcast platforms. For the Washington Times, I'm George Gerbo.